to save time, because we will not have a lot of time left at hand, I'm going to talk about the hygiene and logistics of GPU machines. One of the key areas of concern when somebody is using GPU machines is about the billing. Now, GPU machines don't stop billing just because you stop these machines. These machines keep on billing unless and until they are terminated. So if you leave your machines running over the weekend, for example, and there is nobody working on those machines, you will incur cost, but they will not be of any use to you. So one of the workarounds to overcome this problem is to terminate the machines. But termination of machines in itself is a problem, because if you terminate the machine, you lose the machine and you also lose all the work that you would have done on your machine. So better way of handling it is to terminate the machine. But before that, you take an image of the machine, and next time when you come in, you create a new instance out of that particular image. I'm just going to show you from the instance what I'm talking about, rather than just mentioning it.
Hi everyone, my name is Gloria and
We don't need this. I will just log into my instance and showcase you what I'm talking about. Okay, so can you see my screen?
Yes, Vikas.
Okay. So I'm going to log into my tenancy.
Vikas, we are not able to see your browser.
Because we can see your screen, but the video
Yeah, yeah.
screen.
That's why. Can you see the console?
Yes, we can
Yes,
see
we
the console
can.
now.
Okay. So assuming that you had a GPU instance running, even though I don't have a GPU instance, it's just a regular VM machine. But assuming that you had this, this was a GPU machine, or for that matter, any other machine which was in running status, and now you have reached Friday evening, and you realize that over the weekend nobody is going to work on these machines, and you are not going to let these machines run on their own, and for 2 days you're going to get a build for something that you are not going to use. So the better option is to terminate these machines. So for example, if I take let's say if I take this machine, I can go here and I can terminate the machine. I have this terminate option. But before I terminate the machine, what I want to do is I want to take a copy of the hard drive. I want to take a copy of this machine, which I will do through create custom image. Once I click on this, I just have to provide the compartment in which this image will be created, which most likely would be the same compartment. I can give any useful name to my image. Let's say GPU image, and I will give some date time stamp on this. 07072024, something like that. And then I click on create image. Now, while the image is getting created, the machine will go down for maybe a couple of minutes while the image gets created, and your image will get created somewhere in custom images folder. You can go and check your images created here. Okay. Once you see that the image is created and is available, you can go back and you can terminate the instance. Now I can go back and I can terminate one of these instances. Okay. So instance is terminated on, say, Friday afternoon, and come Monday morning, you come back to office, and now you need to use the same instance once again. All you have to do is go to the custom images, click on this, and click on create instance. Okay. So rest of the steps are exactly same as you create a GPU instance. The only difference would be, in this case, would be now you are using an image from your custom images rather than selecting the image from Oracle provided images or the partner images or Oracle images. So you're not going to use them. You're going to use a custom image, which is actually the copy of the machine that we terminated on Friday afternoon. The rest of the stuff remains the same. You create the machine, you provide your networking details, you provide the same private key, public key pair out here. And if there is any other configuration that you have done, for example, you would have selected boot volume, which is a custom boot volume. You could do the same thing and then create the image. Once you create the image, it's going to create exactly the same image, same machine that you had terminated. So that way, if you are not going to run your GPU machines for longer duration, you are able to save money. And this is not only about this hackathon and bootcamp. This is generally whenever you are using GPU machines on Oracle Cloud, you need to have a strategy in place so that you can save your money. Now, it may be that you don't really need to do this and you are actually using your machine 24/7. Then obviously this step does not, you can ignore this step peacefully, and really this does not apply to you. But this is typically for folks, for startups who are going to give a pause to their machine for a certain period of time. Okay. Now, couple of things here. What will happen is when I recreate the machine, one of the things that will happen is my public IP address would change. So every time I terminate and recreate the machine, IP address would keep changing. If you are in development phase or if it doesn't matter to you, then obviously you can ignore it and let the new IP address get created, and you can share that IP address every time you create the machine. You get the new IP address and you can share that IP address with your team. But if that is not the case and you really want to maintain the IP address, then you can go in and you can create an IP address which is permanent. I mean, you get a public IP address reserved. You can reserve a public IP for yourself, and you can, when you are creating the instance, you can assign this public IP. So this public IP is assigned to this tenancy, and this is one-time effort. You create once, and this public IP stays there. So for example, this public IP. So this is already assigned somewhere. But if it was not assigned, I would have this public IP available, and I would create my instances every time with this public IP. Okay. So in terms of your hostname setup and domain setup, if you are looking at if there is a public server, web server associated with your machine, your public IP remains the same. So you don't have to really go and do your configurations all over again. Or if in case outside this GPU machine, you have another setup which is actually accessing this GPU machine through public IP, you could avoid all those changes by just having a reserved public IP. Okay. And this reserved public IP is available to you for all times. Once you assign it, obviously it's blocked, and this IP cannot be used during the period of time it's blocked, and then you can release this public IP as and when you want. Another thing that I spoke about this whole process of terminating the GPU machines and restarting them. This whole process can be automated. Right now, I would not suggest you folks to spend time on automating this process. But in future, when you start using these GPU machines extensively, and you are actually running your production workload or your UAT workload on these GPU machines, I would recommend that you automate this whole process of stopping, creating a custom image, terminating, and then restarting the whole process, recreating the instance through an automated process. When you reach the stage where you want to automate this whole process, you could reach out to me and my colleagues. Nagraj is on this call, or Mitesh. You can just drop us an email and we'll help you create some kind of an automation process which you can run on demand, or you can make it part of your cron job so that automatically this process runs and the whole setup is taken care of. That way you can save your money on GPU machines. And why I'm emphasizing on it is because GPU machines are expensive machines, and if you don't care about them, about the billing process, you might realize that the $45,000 that you have received in credits, they may disappear one day very quickly. So just please be mindful of that. That is pretty much from my side, and the videos and the webinars that we want to do. If you have any questions, you could put it on chat. If you cannot, if you would recall a question later on, which happens to be very often after the webinar, I would remember a few questions. You could put it on the Slack channel, and either myself, Mitesh, or Nagraj would respond back to your question. In case there is a deeper conversations required, we can set up a Zoom call, and we can actually have one-on-one Zoom call with you folks to answer your questions.